Very fine, very right person. In addition to those things, he also works a lot in the Basin in Yerushalayim. So he told me they had a very interesting case in the Basin where a woman was getting divorced. So in order to show them what her name was and the spelling, she brought her ksuba. Okay, good. She brought the ksuba, and the ksuba showed a non-standard spelling of the name, not the standard spelling of the name. So you have to realize, but ksuba, you don't know if the person who wrote the ksuba was necessarily an extremely learned person. So should we really use the ksuba as a proof that her name was non-standard? Or maybe the person who wrote the ksuba also didn't really know the correct spelling of the name. So she said, Rabbi Feinstein wrote my ketubah. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. They said, really? The famous Rabbi Moshe Feinstein? She said, yes, I even have a picture. So they bring her, and she said, I know this is my name. So she brought a picture. Well, listen to this. Not only do you see Rabbi Moshe, it's amazing because remember, this is years ago. They have a photograph as a close-up. Then not only do you see him, that he's there and the ksuba's in front of him, you see he's pausing to think, and his finger, he's right there on their name. He's right there thinking, right there at the right place. He showed them. It still didn't prove it yesterday, but it was very interesting. They had a picture of him pausing on the name as he wrote it. So they obviously they gave it more credence than they might have. Yeah, it was really something Mishamayim, something really amazing. All right, we are today. Thank you.
Second,
fourth line. Oh, massive, right. Right. Yeah. No, so it's a bargain. We should get a discount. We got a lot of mishnayos. Okay. Here. We're going to ask the kasha. You're going to see 1 second. I'm going to show you not like you said by the ability of a minor to acquire or to acquire for others. Here, take a look. Bobby says, get out of here. We learn Marim al Meiser Sheni. What's the rule of Meiser Sheni? Meiser Sheni has to be eaten in Yerushalayim or redeemed, and the money taken in Yerushalayim and consumed there. But so, so redeem means I replace it. I know as I give money in its place. So, for example, so I'm going to give an example. Let's say I have a produce worth $50. So the halacha is I can either take the produce to Yerushalayim and eat it there, or I can pay $50 plus 1/5, and then take the money to Yerushalayim and consume it there. But what's interesting is if I redeem, I replace my Meiser Sheni with money, my own, I have to add a 5th. But let's say you have Meiser Sheni and I take it from you, I don't have to pay the 5th. I just pay. I pay the price and it's redeemed. So everybody would like to save a little money. So what's the trick? What do we do? Marimin. So we learned the halacha that what everybody knows. People know the trick. People need to save a little bit of money. So what do? So they say marimin al Meiser Sheni. We can do a trick. To save ourselves the 5th. And what do? Instead of me redeeming my own Meiser Sheni, I'll get somebody to do me a favor. They'll redeem it from me, and they like me. They'll give it back to me. So we'll save a 5th. I'll give them enough money. I'll give them the exact price as a gift. They will redeem my Meiser Sheni without paying the 5th. No, give it back to me as a gift. So he says, Ketzad. You can say to your son or daughter who's not a minor, because otherwise what they do is it's all you. Okay, or to his male or woman servant who are Jewish, who also they're independent domains. Okay. Here's the money for the exact value of my Meiser Sheni. I'm giving it to you. And please, you redeem this Meiser Sheni and then give it back to me. So he saves himself a 5th. Okay. Now, what's interesting is we did the same trick yesterday. This maidservant, what's the case? Remember, a Jewish maidservant, she goes free the second she reaches majority. So what? If she already has reached majority, she's 12 and 2 hairs. She can't be his maidservant anymore. If she's grown up, she's not her own person. Okay, my boy, if she is ready or grown up, what's she doing by him? Elul, isn't it what the law should say? It must be what she hasn't matured physically. She's still a minor, and what? And still, we see he can give her the money and have her acquire the Meiser Sheni, and she's considered somebody else. And she what? And ironically, it's a little bit hard, but it means that she acquires it from Hagdash, from the sanctity, from the level of sanctity on behalf of her master. So you see what? You see that a minor is able to acquire for others. How'd you tell me what that a minor can't acquire for others? They can. Says, again, we're going to answer the same answer we answered yesterday. Don't worry. But Meiser Bezman Hazeh. It's talking about Meiser in this time, in these days, they're abundant, because Meiser in these days they're abundant. When all of the Jewish people are not here, okay, in Eretz Yisrael, Meiser is only what? Only rabbinic. Okay, it has to be all of us in Eretz Yisrael. Okay, but Amavriya, okay, now Gemara says 1 second. Me, Gemara says, wait a second, get out of here. What kind of answer is that? You're answering me that really what? Really a minor can't acquire for others, but they're allowing her to acquire for others because the requirement here in general, the Meiser is only rabbinic anyway. The rabbis were leaving because of these times. Says, what are you talking about? The Mishnah was talking about these days when these days when we don't live in Eretz Yisrael and the Meiser is only the rabbanan. He says I'm a Mika. Whoever heard of having a Jewish maid? So we don't have Jewish maid servants anymore either. Then if the Mishnah wasn't talking about olden days when Meiser was Meiser, then there was no Jewish maidservants. Did we learn about Tanya? Did we learn? We can't have a Jewish maidservant or Jewish servant except when what? When there's Yovel, we have a base of Mikdash, and we count the 50th year, because all the slaves go free in the 50th year. Yeah. If we don't count the 50th year anymore, we don't have the mitzvah of Yovel anymore, of everything going back. We don't have slaves. So he says, okay, you're right, but I'll give you the same answer another way. I'll do the same trick. I'll still say to you, no, really what I said is true. Really a minor accessory can acquire for other people. But in this case, he can. Why? Because the requirement of Meiser was only Rabbana, but not because it's now. It was then when we still had maidservants, okay, but it was still rabbinic. Why? But we was talking about a pot that has the plant with the wheat grew in a pot without any preparation. When I grow wheat without any holes, right? The ground. There's no connection. So that is completely rabbinic. If there's a hole, that's called the rice. It's called nourishment from the ground. But if there's no hole, then the whole obligation to take Meister is only rabbinic. So there we did it. So we did the same trick anyway. So there's no kasha. Amar Rava, Shalosh Midas B'Katan. This is interesting. And we said there are 3 different time periods of a minor when they reach competency for different things. Okay, what are they? Okay, for example, like the first level that we learned yesterday, Tzoror V'Zorko, if you give him a stone, he throws it away, he knows it's valueless. That goes V'Noto, and you give him a nut, and he takes it, he knows it's valuable. That's the first level of competence for a minor. He's smart enough, he knows the difference between a rock and a nut. He has some competence. So that's the level where he's allowed to acquire already his acquisition. We ratify, but not for himself, but not for others. And correspondingly, the same rule, Biktana, the same rule applies when it comes to a minor girl at that level. Miskadeshes lemiyun. She can be married rabbinically, okay, to the degree that remember, a girl's married rabbinically doesn't have to have a divorce. She can just say, I don't want to be married anymore. That's called miyun. She refuses it. So she's old enough but in order to marry, she has to be old enough to marry also. So where's old enough to marry let's say we give her something to marry her. By Jewish law, we can give a woman some object of value to marry her. We can give her paper. So she has to be smart enough, competent enough to hold on to guard the paper or the object that we give her in order to marry her. And then she's old enough also to since I'm married, and she can say that she can say I don't want to be married anymore. Hapautos, okay, but there's a little older than that. That's between 6 and 10. Okay, do you remember we learned last week we had 6 and 7, 7 and 8, 8, 9. That was 7 and 8, 7 and 8, 8, 9, 9 and 10. So it's up this whole leg. So this whole level between 6 and 10, okay, mechan and memkar. So that level called putos, young children, okay, but a little bit more grown. So now they can buy and sell. Their buying is a buying, and their selling is a selling. Like we learned earlier, when it comes to chattels, by movables, not by land, they cannot. Connect them, the same thing with correspondingly, a girl, miskareshes, okay, she is old enough to receive the get. But as we discussed yesterday, even when her father married off, which is what? It's a doraisa marriage, and she can still receive her get doraisa. She's old enough. Why is that? Why is she old enough? Because remember, we said she knows that she's divorced. She understands this is not your home anymore. Don't come back here. She understands that. So she's old enough. That's that level. So that corresponds to the level of what? That corresponds to the second to the second level. The oldest level is 1 year before maturity for a girl at 11 and for a boy at 12. It's really 11 and 2 hairs, by the way, but 11 the boy at 12. That's the time when both boys and girls can actually make a neder, even though they haven't reached majority. But the Torah says they're old enough; they know what they know who they're swearing to. They know what it means. They can make a vow. Okay, it's such a case when that level, 1 year before maturity, the dream neder regdation hagdosh. Okay, the boy, a boy can make a neder, and he can also sanctify things to the temple. Ukeneged and corresponding by a girl, biktana, by a minor girl. Cholet says she's old enough what to get chalitza. Amazingly, okay, with such a girl, as long as she already, even though she's 11 and 2 hairs, okay, then one of the brothers of her husband who died can do chalitza with her normally. Okay, but also at that age, a year before maturing, a boy at 12 can but even when a boy reaches maturity, even when he's 13, he can't sell his father's property that he inherited. I'll explain why in a minute. Okay, actually, I've been assuming until he's 20. Why is that? Because we have we want the boy may not recognize the true value. So his own stuff he can do what he wants. Yes, and he's a grown man, but stuff he got from his father.
Basically talking about karka, about land.
Karka, yes, land. Yeah, and he may not know the value.
Property.
Yes, and I want you to know, I know more than one case of fathers who were really strict. They told the kid, "Listen, after I died, what I don't want you to sell this property." You know, said I've seen cases like I said, don't do it, don't sell the property. And remember I mentioned to Rabbi Yoel Schwartz, he's a wonderful rabbi. He should be really a uniquely learned and uniquely individual person. So years and years before, when he was young, his mother's father left them a property right in the middle of the city, a store. You know,
in Yerushalayim.
In Yerushalayim, yeah, a store right in Geula. Left them a store, and he said, "Don't sell it. Don't sell it." And what happened was, one generation after another, all of the boys or the husbands were supported in the rabbinate by this shop. And I'm telling you a true story. I lived in Eretz Yisrael from a very young age. I went to Eretz Yisrael when I was 17. So all the time I lived in Yerushalayim, there's a store in Geula, and it's the funniest store. Why? If you see it, it's still there to this day. If you see the storefront, it's hysterical. You'll see ladies' hats and kerchiefs and all kinds of things for ladies, and Svarim, their books opened up. This sefer, that sefer. What is it? It's the wife of Rabbi Yoel Schwartz. She sells women's, hats and things, whatever it is, and she's proudly displaying her husband's svarim that he writes. I heard him say himself. He said several generations of rabbis were all supported from this shop. The father said, "Whatever you do, don't sell this place." He said to this day. Yes, and they were also. I saw it for the time I was a kid. I saw it. You couldn't put two together. You got ladies' hats and Yoel Schwartz's books. He wrote tons and tons of books. Amazing. Anyway. So there's a point where the father says to you, "Listen, until you're grown, you're not going to understand the value of what I did. You're right. You're grown up at 13. You're old enough to do things, but you will not understand what I did. Wait till you're 20. Before you sell my property, wait till you're 20. That's what I would say. You don't know. You think you know the value. Live a little bit. You'll know what I was. You'll know what I was thinking. And then you decide if you're right. Maybe you'll sell it. Maybe you won't. Okay.
I'm going to ask you a question. You say, suppose the girl is 12, and a man has beer with her. Is she still subject to miyun?
No. Even after beer?
Yeah.
I think so because I think no matter as long. After 12? No. After 12, no. There's no after 12. She's an adult. She's an already. She's brought to her. She's an She's grown up already. She's grown up. There's no miyun anymore.
What about a little before 12? Say it's 11.
So that I don't think so. I think it doesn't matter. She's a katana, and even if the marriage is consummated, the marriage is still rabbinic, unless the father, unless the father did it.
The father's dead. Okay.
Yeah. So if she married herself, or if her mother and brothers married off, it's still rabbinic. Even she's smart. Kids are kids. You understand? But smart. But kids are much smarter than we're used to. We don't realize that our whole society has retarded the maturing process. Our kids are not going into the workforce. I told you, the kids used to go to work at 6. My first wife's grandmother, she was playing with toys in the mud the day of her wedding. They had to bring her. They brought her together. To get married. I'm not kidding. They brought him to get married. She was playing outside the street. They said they bring her to get married. It was a different story. I'll just tell you something quickly so you'll understand. We're coming to Tisha B'av. So if you look in the Medrash of Eicha, that we read on Tisha B'av, the Medrash Eicha says that in their times, the Medrash talks about how wonderful Yerushalayim was and how populous it was and what a beautiful place it was. They were grandparents at 26. 26. They got married 12, 13, two pregnancies at 26 years old. They're grandparents. They're grandparents. And you have to think about, seriously, think about imagine your grandfather, 26 years old, whole different relationship with the kid. You're running around, we have a baseball, you can go mountain climbing, whatever you do with the kid. It was a different relationship. But again, the family structure was different. Remember, people lived in extended families. Today, people are afraid to get married young. They feel, oh, I get married, I have responsibility, children, my life is over. It wasn't like that then. You could get married at 12, 13 years old. You want to go out in the middle of the night, do something crazy? You can. You got 6 aunts, 22, 3 sisters, two grand. They're watching 10 babies anyway. You leave a baby, you go out. You want to be, so even if you're married at 13 or 14, you can still go out and be crazy. I'm quite serious what I'm talking about. That was normal. I saw myself when I came to Yerushalayim. I saw a mother and a daughter giving birth together. I saw that together outside of the birth room. They're giggling and laughing.
That happened in my family.
Yeah,
in Lakewood.
Yeah,
a mother and a daughter were in the hospital
together. Yeah, it was so it's for us. It's strange because we have a whole different society. But there are 2 points. One, they didn't hold back the maturing process, and 2, they had extended families, which meant that you could be a kid. You understand? You could have the benefits. Here, why should kids have to go out and be wild as single people? Let them get married and be wild. It's much more fun anyway. I got married. I tried to get married when I was 5 the first time. Which one they held me back. I tried at 5. I tried at 12. I'll tell you the story one time. I tried to get married at 5. I tried to get married at 12. I tried to get married at 16. I got fed up. I left. They didn't they wouldn't listen to me. They broke my heart 10 times. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I got the extra. They held me off still, but I finally got married. I got married. I lived in one room. That was I had one room. My whole house was one. I mean, one room.
How old were you when you actually got married?
I finally got married. They helped me. I was trying to get married with 17, 18. They helped me back till I was 19. I said, I gotta get married. 19. I got married 19. I got my listen. So I live in one room, but mamash, the bedroom is this corner. The kitchen of the room is that corner. That was literally one room. So the first morning after I got married, we had furniture. We had 3 stools. A big stool was the table. That was the whole house. We're sitting on the floor and giggling. Me and my new wife, we're sitting on the floor and giggling. So, there's no mommy and daddy in this house. We can do whatever we want. We're thrilled. We're kids. That's what you go. You raise the roof. You're a kid. You make your mistakes. So there's a big mileage, and it was different then, and it worked. Is what I'm trying to tell you. It worked. So we're shocked yesterday by children getting married. It's good for kids to get married young instead of doing the crazy things that a kid needs to do when they're a teenager. Kids are teenagers need to be wild. They need to figure out the world. The teenagers need to go out and raise a little ruckus. You understand? But if you do it when you're married, you understand, it's wonderful. You understand? The boy and the girl do it together. You see what I'm saying? They raise the roof together. They do all the crazy things kids do together. It's a much stronger society, in my humble opinion. So yeah. A lot of times I'm working hard these days because the modern world is having a hard time in Jewish modern world, can't understand the Torah tradition. Even religious people are starting to think the Torah was written for some crazy world. It doesn't fit our society. It does. We have to realize that we've changed a lot. Okay. And the truth is there are many things that should change back. Okay. Lecture over. Let's continue. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Bathsheba.
Yeah, it was that. Yeah.
Bathsheba was a granddaughter of someone. She was, I think, like 16 years or something, with 3 generations. I think she was born at 6.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that.
Also very close. Yeah, it was normal. So it was, and that society was it's a very happy society, is what I'm trying to tell you. It's not a big deal. Here in America, you know what Lamaze is? So Lamaze, they got the husband and they're training the husband. You know why? Because the family fell apart. Who needs men around? You ever see old Western movies? In the old Westerns, you know what happens? Every time the woman's giving birth, the husband comes in, the doctor says, go boil water. You know what I'm talking about? You know why? To get them out of there. Who wants a man around when women are giving birth? Men are like an extra thumb. Men are useless. There's hormones flying all over the place. Who needs men around? He said, you need sisters, mothers, grandmothers. Get the men out of here. Who needs them? He said, so what happened with Lamaze? The family fell apart. and the girl didn't have her mother there. She didn't have the sisters there like she's supposed to. They're recruiting the husband, Porsche McGaggy. He doesn't belong there.
Husband is there to get the heat from the wife.
To what? Get to what?
Get the heat and then leave the doctor.
Exactly. He gets it. Get out of here. That's it.
Gets the lightning rod.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just teasing anyway. But my point is, so families function differently in a true Torah world, and it works. I'm telling you, it's a delightful thing. You're saying when husbands and wives are young together is a beautiful thing, and it works. But but the used to. Ketana Shamra is Kabbaligiti. Okay, again, you have a minor. She says to the Shaliach, "I want you to receive my get." Okay, but she and a get I should give you other. It's not a get until it gets to her hand. Okay, why? Because she said receive. Okay, now why is that? Because she's not old enough to make a Shaliach. So when she says receive my get, she can't appoint him as a receiving proxy. So what really happens? The husband is sending him as a delivering proxy. So the get only works when it gets to him. The fikach, therefore, in Ratza Bal Lachzor. So if the husband wants to go back to Yachzor, so he can renege all the way until it gets there. Even though usually when the proxy is receiving proxy, the husband can't renege once it gets in the proxy's hands because she's divorced. Even though she appointed him as a receiving proxy, he's not a receiving proxy. He is a delivering proxy. She ain't why? Because a minor cannot make a proxy. So what she said makes no difference. It just means the husband knows she wants a divorce, so he makes him a deliverer. If the father said to the shliach, "Save his kabel," if the father said to a shliach, "Go out and receive my daughter's get," then the husband can't go back because the father did have the right by his minor daughter to what, or until she's grown to accept the get. Okay, exactly. A husband says to her, "Give my wife this get in a certain place. Give it to her in Chicago." But he gave it a different place. Also, the get's no good. Why? Because the father doesn't want the divorce to happen. He's embarrassed. He doesn't want to be divorced in this place. He wants to be divorced in that place. So since he only gave the instruction in this place, the shliach didn't carry it out. The divorce is not a divorce. Okay, Hari Hibamokamploni. But if he says, give my wife this get, she's in Chicago, but he gave it to her in New York, kosher, then it's good. Why is that? Because there we're going to see that we're going to see that he wasn't trying to say, "Oh, I only want to give it there." He's just saying, he's trying to tell him where it is. Oh, she's over there. He was happy to give it wherever. He's just trying to tell him where it is. But he wasn't saying only give it there. If the girl says, "I want you to receive my get in a certain place," and then he sees it in a different place, puzzle, the get is no good. Okay, the same way. Why? Because also she doesn't want to be embarrassed. She doesn't want to be divorced in that place. Everybody knows her. She wants to be divorced in a different place. Rabbi Elazar says no. Even though the girl said, "I only want to be divorced, receive it in this place," it's still a good get. We'll see it. Okay, and we'll explain it coming up. Okay. Furthermore, we learn Haveli Gitim in Makam Ploni. Okay, if she says, "Bring my get from a certain place," okay, from a certain place, okay, and they brought it from a different place, kosher, it's still good. Everyone agrees. Why? Because since it's not it doesn't make a difference because the get doesn't happen when he gets it. The get happens it's not where he brings it from, it's when he brings it to her. Okay, says the Gemara, Rabbi Elazar. I have a problem. Rabbi Elazar, who said in the end, when she said, receive my get in this place, and he received it in a different place. So the first opinion was what? It's not a good get. Rabbi Elazar said, no, it's a good get. Rabbi Elazar, who said that it's a good get, my shon Rishad lo poly. How come in the first case, okay, when it came by the man, he didn't disagree. By the man, he agreed that it's not a good get. Well, my shana say for the poly, why does he disagree and say when the woman says get in this place and get in a different place, why does he say it's no good? He says the answer is Ihu to me died to my garish. Remember, the man is in the Torah has the one who has the prerogative to divorce. The woman can't initiate divorce, only the man can. Okay, copied. So since it's up to him, he said I want this place, that place, or it's no place. But a woman from the Torah, today we can't. But midaraisa, you can divorce a woman against their will. Today we cannot divorce a woman against their will, but midaraisa you can. So there, since she can't dictate the rules, the husband divorce her anyway. So she's just saying, "Oh, my husband's in such a place," but she's not makbid only in that place. And when you know something interesting, you probably know that we talk about gittin. The angels cry. Everything is terrible when people get divorced. So the person divorces their first wife. All kinds of terrible things. So we only really want men to divorce when, God forbid, is a crap matter of where they're prohibited to be married anymore. There's infidelity. So it's a big kasha. How can we, the rabbis, how can any rabbi or any beis din today help a man get divorced? We don't want people to get divorced. He can, but how can we help him do it? It's not the right thing. So the famous answer is this. And today it's not a problem. We have no problem. Why is that? When was it that it was such a horrible thing when a man could divorce a woman against her will? But today, since no woman is divorced against her will, so it's not so stringent. She agrees in the end, for better, for worse. She accepts the divorce, so we are not prohibited from helping the man divorce his wife. That's an interesting point. You'll find that in the Aruch HaShulchan, in the beginning of the laws of divorce. Okay. Furthermore, we learn Habeli Giti. Okay. Now, I just want to make it clear. You know that a Bas Yisrael, a daughter of a Yisrael who's not allowed to eat truma when she marries a Kohen, she's allowed to eat as long as she marries. She gets if she hasn't had a child. Once he dies, or she's divorced, she can't eat truma anymore. So you have all kinds of questions. How long can a given woman eat truma? If she says she's the wife of Kohen, she says Havili Giti. She says, I want you to go and bring my get. She get the other, so she can continue eating truma until she actually receives the get, because she's not divorced until she receives the actual get. His kabbalah giti, but if she said to the shliach, no, I don't want you to be a deliverer. I want you to be a receiver. Receive my get. Asur lecha b'truma. Then the second he's out of sight, she can't eat truma anymore. She doesn't know. Maybe he met the husband around the corner. If she said to the shliach, I want you to go to my husband and have him appoint you to deliver a get to me. So since she's not going to be divorced until she receives it, so long as she doesn't receive the get, she can eat truma. But if she says, I want you to receive my get, the second he's out of sight, she's forbidden to eat truma. Who knows? Maybe around the corner, she met the husband. He met the husband and she's already divorced. She doesn't know. He's kabbalah giti v'makom. She says, what? I want you to be my receiving proxy, but in a certain place. She says, I don't want to be divorced till you get there. Go to New York. Here, I want you to go to New York and travel get the get. But even though I'm making you a recipient of my get, until you get to Florida, I don't want to be divorced. When you get to Florida, I'm divorced. When you get to Georgia, come from New York, receive the get. Even though you have the get, I still don't want the get to happen. I'm not, even though it's in your hand, I'm not really empowering you to receive it until you get to Atlanta. She's in Florida. When you get to Atlanta, I'm divorced. Okay, so therefore what? So she's allowed to eat truma until he gets to that place. It works.
How does she know when it gets?
Okay. So we have to know. We have to know. You're right. But remember, so here's the point. I exaggerated the case. I made it New York and Atlanta. Let's make it 2 blocks from here. You understand, or you see where we can know. But you're right. What you said is 100% correct. Okay. Rabbi Lezer Osamiyad. Rabbi Lezer says no. Even though she said I'm not divorced until you get to a certain place, the second he gets it. Even though he didn't get to the place that she said, she's immediately divorced. Why? Because according to Relezer, she's just telling him, I think here's where it's going to happen, etc. She's just showing him, where things are going. But she doesn't mean that she doesn't want to be divorced otherwise. Okay. Now, says the Gemara, Makita Miyava. One second. When a guy says, when she says, I don't want to be divorced until you get to a certain place. She's not divorced, but when she gets to that place, it's really a divorce. It is a divorce. Didn't you tell me that if she said receive my get in a certain place and he received it in a different place, she's not divorced? So how come it works when she says only divorce me when you get to a certain place? No, he says, okay, it works for this reason. The Amrale, because she said to him, is kabbalah gita b'matamachsia. She said, receive my get in matamachsia, but sometimes my husband is not matamachsia, he's in Babel. This is what she's really saying. She's just saying, she's really instructing him. She says, look, take it wherever it is. Okay, wherever you find my husband in the mission, the reason why it worked, because she's really saying what? Wherever you find him, divorce me. Okay, but here, but in our case, but she said, wherever you find him, get the get. That's not a problem. But here she's saying what? But I don't want it to happen until you get to a certain place. That's a different story. Then she's not divorced until that place. Okay, we learned in the Mishnah. So we said that a wife of a Kohen, okay, who said,
except my get in this
place, okay, miyad, okay. So what? we see my get the problem. The second she can't see the shliach, she already can't eat truma because maybe he met the husband. Pshita. Gemara says that's obvious. Okay, what do you mean? Rabbi Kiva already told us what Rabbi Eliezer already told me that we don't care about her. It's not dependent on her. He already told me we don't care what she says. She's showing me a place. So it's obvious that what? That it's obvious that it's a divorce. She's divorced right away. Gemara says lo tzricha. It's a chiddush. Why? The Amar Leitzvah. She said to him, "Zil mizrach, dita mizrach." He says, go to my husband to divorce me. He's in the east, okay? Because Lamar, the guy went to the west. So you might have thought, what? Okay, you think what? That there's no reason to say it's also because what? Because she said the husband's in the east and he's not in the west. She went to the west and he's not in the west. It doesn't matter, even though he went in the wrong even though he went in the wrong direction, you think there's nothing to worry about. We always have to worry that what maybe the husband, he met the husband. We have the Gita and he gave it again. We don't know. Yeah, you're familiar with. I'll talk another time at length about it, but it's a very important concept even in the Torah called solipsism. Solipsism was a famous subject of Descartes. Solipsism. If you went to school, you learn about Descartes. There's always a problem. How do you know that anything exists outside of what you can see with your senses? Here, how do I? If I saw you, if I see you now, I see you. If I go away, how do I know you're still there? Who said anything exists that's not in front of me? In fact, truth, I can even doubt what's in front of me. So we always have a problem. We have a problem. Anything that you don't know, how do we know? How do you know anything is still? How do you know anything is still there? The real answer is, what?
I think therefore.
Exactly. That was his conclusion. So he said there's certain things that the mind. He's saying there's certain things that the mind does no matter what. We say other than we have a lot to discuss, but one thing we know for sure that there are certain status quos, but the Torah also. But the Torah, we have chazaka. Yes, we have chazakas. But what I'm trying to tell you, nevertheless, when there's not a true chazaka, the second that we don't know, we have to assume that anything. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So certain things are a chazaka. There's a status quo. Last time I saw the guy was alive. I assume he's alive now. You're right. We do. As long as there was no reason to believe he wasn't going to be alive. On the other hand, when the shliach leaves, since he could have met the husband, even though I originally thought the husband was someplace else, so who knows? And therefore, that's what. No, my point is there is no status quo. And the second there's no status quo, you have to say what that anything goes, anything can happen. Whatever you have to take the worst case scenario.
What is that? Solipsism.
Solipsism. Yeah, you can. It's a famous. It's an interesting problem. We have to. And I have a lot to talk. I have a lot to say. Not this time. I have other gemaras after other gemaras where it's more important to talk about it. We do have time, but I want to talk about it in the right place. But I will. If you don't think Rabosa, you can't learn Gemara. You can't read the Gemara. You have to analyze it. You have to understand it. It's not a book to be read. It's a book to be thought about. You have to be educated about it. Now I want to. You've learned before if you've been following Daf Yomi, so you know that it's forbidden to go more than 2,000 amos on Shabbos outside of my domicile. Usually the city I live in, I can go 2,000 amos, not more. But let's say I need to go to a bris on Shabbos or somebody. So there's a trick. What do? I say, even though I live in this city and I only have 2,000 amos, what I'm going to do is I'm going to relocate just before Shabbos. I'm going to make my home just within 2,000 amos of my real home. So therefore, my real home is just under 2,000 amos away. Now I can stay home, okay, because I can walk under 2,000 amos to my real home, outside the city, and then 2,000 amos there to get to the bris or to the that I want to get to on Shabbos. The only thing is, but how do I move my domicile? I put food there. Everybody knows where home is where the eating is, and so I put food on Erev Shabbos. I put food there and declare this is my home. I have food for Shabbos here. I put a minimum amount for a meal, and I have for my meals, and it's called my domicile for Shabbos. Home of the Shlucho, I said to another guy, I said, go do me a favor, go establish my home within 2,000 amos, just on 2,000 amos. Use dates. But he did it with what? He did it with dried figs instead. Begrogos, I told him to make a home for me using dried figs. But he did it for him with dates. Okay, so Tani Chad, one price said, it doesn't matter. The air is good. What's the difference? You put food there, it doesn't matter. Okay, but Tanya Idech. The other Brisa said the other one's contradicted it. Said, it's not an Eruv. So we have to see how come one Brisa say it's good and one Brisa say it's not good. Amarabba Lokashi says it's not a contradiction that cannot be reconciled. Harabanan, Harabi Elazar. The one brisa is Rabbi Elazar, and one is the rabbis, and one is the Rabbanan. We'll explain. The brisa that said what, that the Eruv is no good, Rabbanan, is like the rabbis in our Mishnah, what they said what they say when the woman says, and when the woman said to the shaliach, I want you to do it in this place. Okay, so the rabbi said what? Kapeda. She meant it. She said only in that place, and otherwise it'll be divorced. So the rabbis say, if you don't follow the instructions exactly, you're not my agent. So the same thing over here. When it came to when it came to, I don't care, figs, dates, makes no difference. Even though it makes no difference, that's what she wanted. It's no good. Also here, it's no good. It's not an error. The Bryson said it's good. Rabbi Lezer, like Rabbi Lezer says, nah, she's just showing him the place. She's not being exact. She's just giving him advice, but she's not exact. Rav Yosef Amar, Rav Yosef has a different way to reconcile the two brises. Both of the brises that say both the brises that says the Arab is good and the one that says the Arab is not good, Rabbanan. It's all like the rabbis that what, and the rabbis say what only women are absolutely exacting. No, it's she wants to be divorced in a certain place, right? Because she wants to be embarrassed in a different place. Okay, but when it comes to the Arab, you can't say that. I only want Arab. Do you really care if you have making Arab with dates or with fake? What's the difference? But so then why? How come in one case it's a good Arab, in one case not? Kan bishalo. Okay, one case is where what I'm telling the guy here, take my dates or my figs, and make it Arab for me. So what's the difference? He took my dates, he took my figs. But either way, what he made the Arab bishalo. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so therefore what? It's fine. Okay, so it's all fine. Kan b'shal chaver, but over here, when it said that it's no good, it's because I'm telling you, use my friend's dates or my friend's figs. Since my friend only gave me permission to take his figs or his dates, so I'm exacting. If you took the wrong one, he really didn't have a right to make the to make the error for me. Amar le'Abaya. So Abaya said to him, "Belahad Tanya, what about the brisa? Amar l'shucha arivli. But didn't we learn in the brisa that said if he sent a proxy out, he said arivli b'migdal. If he said to him, go and put food for me in the tower, the certain tower. And instead of putting in the tower, he put the Arab in a dove house. Yeah, a dovka. B'shovach. Okay. Okay, or b'shovach, or if he told him make it in the dovkat and he made it in the house. Okay, the Tanya Chala. So there, one brisa said one brisa said it's good. But Tanya the other said no, the air is not good. So there you can't talk about his and his friends. There's no difference. The answer is Hasam Nami. Also there, I'll tell you, you made a mistake. It's talking about using a friend's produce. Ika peri the migdal peri the shovach. Where he said in the tower there is fruit, or in the dovecot there is fruit. There's produce. So there the friend, since the friend gave permission to take the fruit in the tower and not the fruit in the dovecot, or the fruit in the dovecot and the fruit in the tower, it's exactly the same answer as before. No, when it's his own things, he doesn't care. When it's his friends, he does care. Says the Mishnah. A guy says here, he says to a bunch of people, go write a get for me and give it to her. Okay, so we're going to have all kinds of laws. Who has to get it? Who gives it? We'll learn it, but it's going to be a big subject. Guys, especially happens when people are in trouble. Guy got stuck. He's getting arrested. These things. The famous Menachem Begin, may rest in peace. He was I told you he wasn't a religious man himself, but he showed great respect for the Torah and for the rabbis, and it was a miracle that he ever got to Israel. I don't know if you know that he was arrested in Vilna for his political activities, his Zionist activities. So the NKVD then was before they had before the KGB. They arrested him, and it didn't look good. He didn't look he's getting out. So he called a friend. He says, listen, I want to arrange to give a get to my wife. It's not fair for her to be married to a guy's not going to, use it by Russia. It's very hard to get out. So, but it was too late. She left for Eretz Yisrael before he got it. He never got to divorce him. But anyways, but it's common. A guy gets arrested or all kinds of. He says, quick. He says, go write a get and give it to my wife. He's calling outside. He's calling out through the jail bars. Go write a get and give it to my wife. It happens. We have all kinds of rules. Okay. So he says, okay. So now we want to talk about languages. Homer Kisvu get. If a guy said write a get and give it to my wife. So when he said the word get now, even though get can mean what? Any document, but the simple word get means a divorce. That's what it means. Okay. Garshua, okay, drive her out, which is the word Garshua, drive her out, drive my wife out. Okay, Kisri Geras Tanua, write a letter. Now remember, in our get, it says Geras. The word Geras, a letter is our form. Our form letter get has the word Igeris in it. All these words are Tanula. Write an Igeris and give it to us. All these things are they should write or get and give it. All those languages are clearly languages of what? Of writing a get. That's what he meant. You can do it. Now, be careful. Paterua. It's like, I don't usually speak this way, but people who are very educated do. That word is not paterua. It's really paterua. Paterua. I was fortunate to live for years and years in the old city of Yerushalayim. There's a rabbi named Rabbi Victor Nebenzahl. Victor Nebenzahl is a walking Sefer Torah beyond my ability to describe to you. Not only does he know the whole Torah, and I mean every word of the Torah, he knows every dot, and every vowel. Every dot and every vowel in the Torah. Every dot, and I saw when he sat Shiva for his father. His father was the controller of the state of Israel. I don't know if you know that. His father was a very famous man. He was the controller of the state of Israel. And when he sat Shiva for his father, I saw him sitting on the floor. Rabbi, even if he's sitting Shiva, if the community needs me, he's still allowed to say Torah, even though we don't learn Torah. Even though we don't learn Torah when a person is in mourning. But if you're the rabbi, if it's your job, you have to say. I saw him sitting on the floor correcting the vowels when people said the psukim. He knew every vowel, every dot, and he speaks correctly. And when there's a dagesh, and I'm going to need this now. I'm going to need to explain the Gemara. When there's a dagesh in a test, it's not patruha. It's really pateruha.
Right.
It's pateruha. It's like when you see a dot in the test, it's like there are two tests written. It's really pateruha. You see what I'm saying? That's really is. So you listen, you'll see it. When you listen to him lane, you can't believe it. And there's a guy I know also, a very fine young Talmid Chacham. He was a sailor also. He learned from them, so he lanes exactly like him. But anyway, so everything I told you, the story I told you, you're going to need in a second. But the whole Gemara is going to make sense now. What I told you. Now you have to know, in people who speak Aramaic, get Peturin is our language. In our Gittin, Peturin is language for divorce. In Hebrew, Peturin is not the language of divorce. Peturin in Aramaic is a word for divorce. In Hebrew, Peturin is not the word for divorce. So for an Aramaic speaker, it's going to make a very big difference if he says pateruha or pitruha. In Hebrew, it's not going to make a difference because for Hebrew speakers, like in Israel, in Eretz Israel, they spoke Hebrew. Okay, it doesn't make a difference. Why? Because it's not a language of divorce. But for Aramaic speakers, paterua is a language of divorce, and pitrua is not. Okay, now, so we see. So if he says paterua, if he says what? Divorcer, it looks like divorce. Paterua really means what? Exempt her, release her. Parnasua, support her, take care of her. Asula ben kanimus, do the right thing. Behave, treat her in the proper way. Asula koroi, or again, treat her in the proper way. Asula kanimus, treat her as we're accustomed. Treat her as we're accustomed. Asula koroi, do as it's fit. Lomar klum. All those cases, he said nothing. It's not a get or it's a doubtful get, but we can't say it's a get. All those cases, I'm going to see why. Okay, Tana Rabbanim, we learned in a brisa. Shelchua, send her out. Shabkua, abandon her. These are all languages that we find. Remember, in the Torah, what does it say? He sent her out of his house by divorce. In the get that we write, Shabkua, it's a ger shibukin. It's a language of abandonment. Our get that are written in Aramaic, it says shibukin. So Shabku, abandon her, is for us is what? Is a language of divorce. Then they should write it. They should write it and give it. He's clearly meant to divorce her. Pitrua. Okay, now watch. The price is going to be different. Pitrua. We notice he said Pitrua with a chirik. Parnasua, exempt her. Parnasua, support her. Asulu kanimus, do like our custom. Asulu karoi, do for her as what's right. Lomar klum, that's nothing. We can't say it's a get. Okay, Tanya, we learn Rabbi Nassim. Rabbi Yosef said paterua. The Rav Chaim said if he said paterua, if he said what exempt her, divorce, which sounds like divorce her, it's a good get. Okay, Omar Piterua, but if he said Achirik Piterua, you see what I'm saying? Okay, Lo Amar Klum, he didn't say anything. Amarava. So now he's going to explain to you why that is. Why is there a disagreement? It really depended where you live. Amarava, Rabbi Nassan the Bavlahu. Rabbi Nassan, he's a Bavli. He lives in Babel, and he speaks what? Aramaic. Okay, but diak bein Pitarua. He made a difference whether you said Pitrua or Patirua. Is it Pitrua or Patirua? No, for an Aramaic speaker, since Piturin is a language of divorce, if you say it in the command form where there's a dot, which is with a dot. In other words, if I say Patirua, I'm commanding you to divorce her. I said Patirua, divorce her. I say Pitrua, it means exempt. I'm not giving you a language of divorce. Okay, so so he made a difference between Patrua and Pitrua. Tana Didan, but our Tana, okay, Eretz Yisrael, who is an Eretz Yisrael, is a Hebrew speaker, Lodiak, I said there's no difference. In both of them, it's not a language of divorce. But in Babel, it's a language of divorce because that's how we write. Ibailu, we had this question. Okay, Hotziu Mahu. What if they said it in Babel? They said if the husband said, "Pardon me, take her out." Remember here in our pasukim in the Torah, the Yatzah, she went out. She went out from his house. She lived with somebody else, right? She went out. Izvua, he said, abandon her. What about that? Is that like our language in the get where it says shibukin, abandonment in Aramaic? Is it like that? Hatiruha, here, make her permissible, untie her, make her permit her. What is that? Okay. Now remember, because in the get, because in the get we say the husband writes in the get, you are permissible to any other man. Okay, hanichua, let her go, leave her alone. Ho'ilu law, here, help her. Okay, mahu, what's the law? Asula kadas, or do to her the like the law. Okay, but what mahu, what's the law? So the Gemara says of all those questions, at least the last one I can answer you. The Tanya, because we learned Asula Kadas. So the guy said, do like the law. Asula Kanimus, do for her like the custom. Asula Karoi, do to her like it's fitting. Lor Marklum, he hasn't said anything. All those languages are not clear enough. It's either not a get or it's a doubtful get. We have to just be stringent. Okay, we'll call it a day. We'll call it a day. Not always. Yes, you're right. First of all, you're right. But still, the people of Eretz Yisrael still were Hebrew speakers. But you're right. Yes, you're correct. But it wasn't always like that. Yes, there was a lot of times where their primary language was Hebrew in Eretz Yisrael. But you're right. For most of that period of time, Aramaic was our language. It's true. But they still were Hebrew speakers in Eretz Yisrael. But yes, good.
They say ace and ice, like the Hasidim.
Don't get me started. But don't get me started. But I want to tell you one thing. Listen, if we got a minute, we're not late. I'll take it. You have to know. I don't know if you noticed. I never change my accent. I speak Hebrew the way my parents speak. And why is that? Because I know this. I know nobody. We can't really point to almost anyone and say that they know how to speak Hebrew, how to pronounce Hebrew anymore. Mostly everybody I can show you speaks it wrong. Most people, for sure, here the way in Israel and a lot of people from Europe, the chet is for sure wrong. It's for sure wrong. Probably the resh is wrong. They say resh, that's for sure wrong because we have the Tikkunei Zohar that teaches us where the letters come from, and the resh comes from the teeth, not from the palate. So the resh is for sure wrong. There's no question about it. Most Ashkenazim, I'm not making fun of anybody, okay, but it's for sure wrong. Most of the vowels here, we Ashkenazim are missing. Here, you have a chaf with a dot. What is it? A kaf, and without a dot, a chaf. A base with a dot, base. Vase without a dot, vase. Okay, good. That you know how to do. Vase, kaf, kaf, you know how to do. Gimel with a dot, gimel without a dot. We don't differentiate. We don't do it. Okay, we don't do it. Dalet with a dot, dalet without a dot. So all those things we Ashkenazim have lost. Now, who still maintains them? The Teimanim have a lot of them. The Teimanim make a gimel with a dot, gimel without a dot, dalet with a dot, dalet without a dot. But everybody is missing. And what we know the halacha is if Jews speak Hebrew this way, in the halachas of speaking Hebrew, if I have to do a ceremony that has to be done in Hebrew, make chalitza, etc., it works. If I say it works, if people speak that way, it works. I know one thing: if I speak the way my parents spoke, it works. I'm going to make up a new accent. I don't know what's that. What's that? I'm gonna make up a new pronunciation? So I don't change my accent. You understand what I'm saying? I'm gonna keep the accent that I know one thing. Well, I was born into a world where Jews speak Hebrew this way. It works for halacha. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to do it. But I will tell you one thing. If I'll tell you something interesting. You know, the halacha is that you're supposed to extend the end of the word echad in Shema.
Yeah.
But you're not supposed to. But you're not supposed to distort the word. You can't say echad, echadei, echadeh, echadeh. You have. So all my life, I was killing myself to extend the dalet. I couldn't do it. I can't do it without distorting the word. And then it occurred to me, because I met the Teimanim, remember, there's no dot in the dalet of Shema, so they don't say achad, they say achad. They say achad. They don't say, we say David, they say Dawid. Dawid, because the first one's the dot, the second one's without. They say Dawid HaMelech, Dawid. So they would say, Shema Hashem, Hashem Hashem Echad. I said, wait a second, if I said Hebrew like the Teimanim, I can extend the dalet for a year without distorting the word echad. There's no problem. So I said,
but
if
it's
I
not extended.
no, I say echad. I can extend it. I can make it longer than the rest of the word. And that's when I found out there's a big Talmud Chacham in Bnei Brak. His name was Avsaya Dublitsky. He is an Ashkenazi. And that word he says like the Teimanim in order to do it. Anyway, but people speak all. The answer is Jews speak Hebrew that way. It's fine with me.
I have a tremendous problem with what was again, that threw me off terribly.
Exactly.
Threw me off terribly.
Yeah. So
I didn't know it's a difference.
yeah.
No, when he
Thanks, Bob.